In the NFL, every player has a story, but some stories transcend the game itself. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most electrifying running backs in the NFL today. Quick, explosive, dynamic. But his path to stardom wasn't paved with privilege or comfort. Before the touchdowns and the cheering crowds, there was a young boy experiencing homelessness, moving from shelter to shelter, uncertain about where his next meal would come from or where he'd sleep that night. This is the story of Jahmyr Gibbs, a story of resilience, redemption, and the family that changed everything, from homeless shelters in Atlanta to starring for the Detroit Lions. This is a journey that reminds us what the human spirit can overcome. Jahmyr Gibbs was born in Dalton, Georgia, but grew up in the Atlanta area. His early childhood was marked by instability. His biological mother struggled with personal issues, and young Jahmyr found himself moving between homes, shelters, and uncertain living situations. Homelessness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're talented or hardworking or full of potential. When a child experiences homelessness, every day is a battle for basic necessities: food, safety, stability. For years, Jahmyr lived this reality. He'd sleep in shelters. He'd wonder where his next meal would come from. He'd watch other kids with stable homes and loving families, wondering why his life was so different. But even in the darkest moments, Jahmyr had football. It was his escape, his outlet, his dream. On the field, none of the chaos mattered. He could just run, and when he ran, he was free. He played youth football in Atlanta, and even as a kid, coaches noticed something special. He was faster than everyone else, more elusive, more determined. Football wasn't just a game for Jahmyr. It was survival. It was hope. But talent alone doesn't change circumstances. Jahmyr needed stability. He needed a family. And at 15 years old, his life changed forever. Greg and Dusty Ross were a couple in Dalton, Georgia, with big hearts. They had children of their own, but felt called to do more. When they learned about Jahmyr's situation, through local connections in the community, they made a life-changing decision. They would adopt him. At 15 years old, Jahmyr Gibbs officially became part of the Ross family. For the first time in years, he had a stable home, a bedroom of his own, regular meals, parents who cared about him, siblings who welcomed him. Dusty Ross would later say in interviews that Jahmyr fit into their family immediately. He was respectful, hardworking, and grateful for the opportunity. But more than that, he had a drive that couldn't be taught. He wanted to make something of himself. He wanted to make his new family proud, and football became the vehicle for that transformation. At Dalton High School, Jahmyr exploded onto the scene. With the stability of the Ross family behind him, he could finally focus on what he did best: dominating on the football field. As a junior and senior, Jahmyr rushed for over 1,000 yards each season. He averaged nearly 10 yards per carry. He scored touchdowns every time he touched the ball, it seemed. Scouts from across the country started taking notice. But it wasn't just his talent, it was his story. Coaches knew that any kid who had overcome what Jahmyr overcame had the mental toughness to succeed at the next level. And Georgia Tech came calling. In 2020, Jahmyr Gibbs signed with Georgia Tech. He chose to stay close to home, close to the Ross family, who had given him everything. And immediately, he showed he belonged. As a true freshman in 2020, Gibbs rushed for 746 yards and caught 28 passes for 303 yards. He was one of the most explosive playmakers in the ACC, but it was his sophomore season in 2021 that put the country on notice. Jahmyr Gibbs rushed for 746 yards and caught 44 passes for 470 yards. He scored 10 total touchdowns. He was an all-purpose weapon, a running back who could line up anywhere and beat you with speed, vision, and elusiveness. Gibbs wasn't just good, he was special. NFL scouts were already circling. But Jahmyr made a decision that surprised some people. He entered the transfer portal and committed to Alabama. If he wanted to reach the NFL, he was going to play for the best program in college football. He was going to learn from Nick Saban. In 2022, Jahmyr Gibbs transferred to Alabama. And under Nick Saban, he became one of the most dynamic players in college football. Saban loved Gibbs' versatility. He could run between the tackles. He could bounce runs outside. He could catch passes out of the backfield. He could line up as a receiver. There was nothing Jahmyr couldn't do. In his lone season at Alabama, Gibbs rushed for 926 yards and 7 touchdowns while catching 44 passes for 444 yards and 3 more scores. He averaged 7.4 yards per carry, elite production in the toughest conference in college football. He torched SEC defenses week after week. Against Tennessee, he had over 100 all-purpose yards. Against Auburn, he was unstoppable. Every time Alabama needed a big play, they gave the ball to number 1. And after that season, Jahmyr made it official. He was declaring for the 2023 NFL Draft. The kid who once slept in homeless shelters was about to become a first-round pick. On April 27, 2023, Jahmyr Gibbs sat at home with his adopted family. They'd come a long way from those uncertain days in Atlanta. Pick after pick went by. Running backs weren't going as high as expected. But then, with the 12th overall pick in the first round, the Detroit Lions were on the clock, and they selected Jahmyr Gibbs. The emotion was overwhelming. Dusty Ross, his adoptive mother, cried. Greg Ross beamed with pride. But for Jahmyr, it was about more than football. It was vindication. It was proof that no matter where you start, you can achieve your dreams if you have the right people believing in you. The Detroit Lions were rebuilding under head coach Dan Campbell, and they saw Jahmyr Gibbs as a cornerstone piece. His speed, receiving ability, and explosiveness fit perfectly in offensive coordinator Ben Johnson's scheme. And from day one, Gibbs delivered. In his rookie season, he rushed for 945 yards and 10 touchdowns while catching 52 passes for 316 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. He was everything the Lions hoped he'd be. A dynamic, versatile weapon who could change games, but it was the way he ran that turned heads. Gibbs had elite speed, 4.36 40-yard dash speed, but he also had vision, patience, and an ability to make defenders miss in the open field. He'd burst through a hole, make one cut, and he was gone. The Lions made the playoffs for the first time in years, and Gibbs was a huge part of that success. Detroit finally had an explosive offense, and Jahmyr was one of the key pieces. In his second season in 2024, Gibbs took another leap. He became one of the most dangerous dual-threat backs in the NFL, consistently ripping off big plays and scoring touchdowns. The Lions' offense became one of the most explosive in football, and Gibbs was at the center of it. His teammates loved him. His coaches praised his work ethic. And Lions fans, they'd found their star. But the best part of Jahmyr's story isn't the stats or the touchdowns. It's what he represents. Jahmyr Gibbs has never forgotten where he came from. He's spoken openly about his childhood struggles with homelessness and the impact the Ross family had on his life. In interviews, he said that he wants to be a role model for kids going through similar situations. He wants them to know that their circumstances don't define them, that with hard work, faith, and the right support system, anything is possible. The Ross family still comes to his games. They're still his biggest supporters. And Jahmyr has made it clear, none of his success would be possible without them. They gave him more than a home. They gave him hope. Today, Jahmyr uses his platform to give back. He's involved in programs that support homeless youth and foster care initiatives. He's determined to be the example he wishes he'd had growing up. And on the field, he's one of the most exciting players in the NFL, fast, explosive, unstoppable. But his greatest achievement isn't in the end zone. It's the journey he took to get there. From homeless shelters to NFL stardom, from uncertainty to stability, from a boy with no family to a man with a family that loves him unconditionally. Jahmyr Gibbs' story is about more than football. It's about resilience. It's about the power of family. It's about never giving up on yourself, even when life gives you every reason to quit. The kid from the shelter became a star, and his story is just beginning. That's Jahmyr Gibbs. That's the power of hope.